Hello everyone, welcome to the Sidecar Spin. Today I will be speaking with my first ever guest and I'm very excited to be speaking with Brian Anthony, a sidecar passenger from Australia. Brian is a seasoned sidecar passenger and he has multiple Australian titles with different riders. He's been racing since he was 16, so we're going to chat a bit about that. We'll also chat a bit about his first experience racing, some of the challenges he's faced, racing in Australia versus racing in Europe, and the differences between the two. He's also going to give some advice for new people interested in the sport. And a lot more, so tune in and have a listen. Welcome to the Sidecar Spin. It is awesome to have you as my first guest, Brian Anthony.
Thank you very much. It's good to be on.
Yeah, it's awesome. So can you please tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into sidecars?
Yeah, so I grew up, my dad raced, and my uncles, cousins and all that sort of stuff raced sidecars.
Yep.
My grandfather raced originally as well.
Yep.
And then when I used to go to the track sometimes with my uncles and my cousin.
Yep.
Have a go on the sidecar with them, just a couple of laps when I was a little kid. And then when I turned 16, I did a race with my cousin Greg, passengering for him. And then after that, I started racing with my uncle Trev and kept racing with him for, I don't know how many years, probably must have been 10 years, maybe a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. Ah, cool. Oh, well, I've seen lots of Anthony's around. Yeah, the name seems to be everywhere in sidecars.
Yeah. They're all in. Like most of them know how to go at it, so yeah, it's been quite good.
Cool.
And I always enjoyed it. Like Trev's had a lot of success in it, and yeah, so I was quite lucky to get to learn a lot from him as well.
Yep. So has he been like your main sort of mentor to start off with? Who sort of taught you what to do?
I'd say so. A lot to do with, Trevor was probably the one that I rode with the most.
Yeah.
And then I also did a bit with Greg. And Neil, my other cousin, he was a passenger for Greg.
Yeah.
And so he obviously taught me a lot and sort of, pointed me in the right direction, pulled me up when I was doing the wrong thing. And, between the three of those, probably spent the most time with them and just learning from them and, I don't know, it was good fun and good experiences, really.
Oh, you're pretty lucky to be able to have so many people in your family to be able to learn off as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they didn't mind pushing me in, slapping me in the line when I was doing the wrong thing, or they were really good in the way that they sort of showed me. They gave me plenty of time to learn. I think that's one thing that lots of people don't get.
Yeah.
Say passengers that someone wants them on, and then if they're not great to start with straight away, they start looking for someone else. Where I really did get the time to learn and build me up instead of just sort of throwing me in the deep end and saying, "Well, hurry up." But they gave me that time, and
I know what that's like.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, I've done 2 laps before. Oh, time for a race. It's like, oh, shit, don't really know what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. And those first races are hard, aren't they? They're probably the hardest races of all because, you've probably got a bit of panic and a bit of not sure what you're doing right or,
you don't want to let the rider down too. If it's someone that's already got that experience, you don't have that experience, and then you get on with them and you think, am I going to be good enough to, you don't want to let them down and, hold them back either. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And I used to get that quite a lot. I used to get a little bit nervous when I'd start racing and, I didn't want to let Trev down because he had a lot of success before me and, won multiple Australian championships and whatnot. So I always looked up to him. And basically one day I remember it clearly. I was on the start line with him and I was a bit nervous, and he said, "What are you nervous about?" And I said, "Well, I want to do a good job, don't want to let you down." And he said, "All you need to do is do the best you can do.
Yeah.
So each corner, you just break it down to each corner. You do the best that you can do in that corner. Each gear change, he'll do the best that you can do. Each, jump, whatever. As long as you do each little part the best that you can possibly do, then that's the most that anybody could ever ask of you.
Yeah.
And then when he sort of said that, I thought, oh, okay, well, as long as I just give it my 110% no matter what, then in every situation, even if I'm hurting or tired or whatever, if I just give it 110%, then no one can ask any more of that. And that basically took away all the nerves, all the pressure, really. I didn't have to worry about it then. I just knew that give it my best, and that's it.
I suppose breaking it down into those little parts as well, you start thinking about it a bit different. Instead of thinking of a whole race, you sort of break it down to think, oh, if I just get around this bit like that, and just get up here like that, and before you know it, the race is over.
Exactly, yeah, because a lot of people get tired.
You're not freaking out.
Yep. Yeah, when you get tired, if you just think, oh, I'll just do this next corner or this next jump or this next whatever, before you know it, it's all done and finished, and you go, oh, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
At the time, if you think too much about it and go, oh, I've got however many laps left to go, then you really, start to struggle a bit, or it becomes overwhelming that it is going to be hard. But
And I found that even with doing the Murray Williams Cup, thinking, oh God, there's 4 back-to-back races, but you just got to say, all right, just get through this one. And then, reset, then get through the next one and reset. And then before you know it, you've done the whole lot. And even though you're absolutely dying, you're oh, I did it. But at the start, you think, oh my God, how am I going to do that?
And then you have that sense of satisfaction that when it is really hard that you do finish it, it's quite satisfying to
for sure.
Have that feeling. So,
And I think that's a part of the reason why, I know that's why I do it, because it is hard, and that you get that satisfaction at the end because you've done something that's really hard.
Yeah, exactly. And I think lots of people think that winning's the most satisfying thing, or winning's the ultimate sort of thing. And don't get me wrong, we all do it. It's nice to have a win, that's for sure. But I would definitely say some of my best races, or most of my best races that I've ever had, are not races that I've won.
Yeah.
They're just races that have been really hard, and we've had good battles or something like that. But
we overcome those challenges, and then that's the reward.
Yeah, and sometimes that's more satisfying than the win. Don't get me wrong, it is nice to win, but it's the improvement. If you improve and even if you get a new rider and you start to gel with that person, then it becomes really satisfying in that way.
Yeah.
Even though it might not be the best that you've ever ridden or the best but as you gel as a team and get better as a team, sometimes that's just as satisfying as the win.
Yeah, no, for sure, because I found that even when jumping on with Caroline, at the start, she was having to give me lots of instructions and stuff like that, and then by the end of the season, she didn't really have to say much to me at all, and we were just flowing, that flow and that trust that you get, and just gelling with them, and you're wow, we actually rode really good, that was awesome.
Yeah. And as predominantly I just do passengering, but I've ridden a bit as well, but the more you do it, the more you realise, okay, I do have some control of certain things with passengering. You don't have the throttle and the brakes, but you can control how fast you want to go by whether you're getting the drive to the back wheel, whether you're keeping the chair wheel down properly, or whether, you're positioning yourself in the right spot to get round the corner at the fastest pace you can.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot to it in that way as well.
Yeah, well, it's like that. We were in one of the road trials. We were one of the only sidecars that didn't get bogged around this certain section. And even though we were probably one of the slower ones, it felt good that we were working together and choosing the right lines, and I was in the right spot, and I was moving at the prime time so that we didn't actually get bogged.
Yeah.
And that in itself was oh, wow, that's really cool. We must have been doing really well to have got around there. Worked together, and we both did the right things at the right time to make it just so clean.
Yeah.
And that feeling in its own, that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And you'll find certain parts of tracks, when they are hard and you get them right, or you get them better each time and improve on them, that's unreal. That's a good feeling to have. And then sometimes the hardest parts of the track become your favourite parts of the track because you do see that improvement.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, that's true, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you think, like, as a rider, as a passenger, what do you think have been the biggest challenges?
Probably in Australia, the biggest challenge is getting other bikes out to race.
Yeah.
That's probably the frustrating part when you're really keen and you want to race, but there's not many other people that want to race, or that's definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
But I guess as a passenger, like, fitness is probably a big one. When I first started, that was the hardest thing. Like, just to last the length of the races sometimes was quite difficult, and I suppose just having that knowledge, like, it's definitely a benefit nowadays with, say, social media and YouTube and all that sort of stuff. You can sit down and study videos over and over of what the top riders and passengers do in the world and learn from that, whether it's regardless of what discipline, whether it's road trials or motocross. There's so much to be learnt from watching what they do and listening to what they do and how they approach things.
Yeah, and you get to see different techniques too, because, like, I watch a lot of the GPs, and then I watch the guys from the UK, and then just watching the guys at the road trials and stuff, like, in real life, and you just see, like, all the fast guys, and they all have a different type of technique as well. And then I suppose you can watch that and go, oh, well, that works better for me, or oh, not quite sure about that one, and sort of mix it up a bit as well.
Yeah, for sure. And there's certain techniques that I know sometimes when you look like you're almost upside down, sort of passengering and leaning back, and I know a lot of people think that that's sort of showboating, and I don't think it is. Like, the way, for myself, I watched the likes of Caspar Stuplis, Sven van der Bogart, Sven Berge. I just watched like oodles of hours of them doing that sort of stuff to learn how they were doing it. And there's definitely a certain technique you can do that they do exceptionally well. And when you do that and you gel with your rider and you get it both at the same time, it's actually very beneficial. But there's a lot of spots where you can't do that on tracks.
Yeah.
But certain techniques like that can benefit you as a team as long as you work on it a lot, practicing and that sort of thing. And you can benefit that. So
So tell us what your first experience racing was like. Like, how did you feel with that first time that you went out there? Because how old were you when you had your first race?
I think I was it was a week after I think I turned 16, so I'd raced solo motocross a little bit.
Yeah.
Nothing special, just a few races here and there.
Yeah.
And then, I actually went to the race. It was at Wonthaggi in Victoria, and when we got to the gate, they said, oh, no, juniors were yesterday. And I was like, well, no, we're racing seniors. So got there, and it was hard. I wanted to do a good job with Greg, and the bike that I rode was actually the bike that you own now.
Oh, cool.
So that was when it had the CR500 in it. That was the first bike that I ever did a race on.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And, I definitely struggled, like, fitness-wise and just hanging on, and I know he didn't get to go fast like he would have liked to, but he gave me the time to learn and that. And I remember getting off and just thinking, wow, this is awesome. Like, I want to keep doing this. And it was hard, but it was
it as hard as you expected, or, like, was it what your expectations were, or?
Yeah, it was. He definitely took it very easy on me, so that, I feel like when sometimes, say, you take someone for a ride for the first time and you get some people and they'll go crazy and, maybe try and show off or whatnot and scare the passenger.
Yeah, and then they don't want to get back on again.
Exactly. I look at it and I just think it's just stupid, because then they're never going to want to get back on, and that's not good for the sport as a whole. Yeah. And, for me, I got the opportunities to go nice and steady to start with and build me up. Yeah. And then I could have a good race. And,
well, you need to build that confidence up before, because you don't want to be chucking them off and then they don't even build that confidence up and then they give up before they even really get into it.
Exactly, yeah. And but, I was lucky that I got those, couple of rides with, say, Greg and Trev, and they really did take it easy on me and gave me that time to learn.
Yeah.
Even, say, in years later, I got on with John and he gave me time to, because I'd ridden with Trev for so many years.
Yeah.
I hadn't really ridden with a great deal of other people. But, then trying to get used to John's style of riding as well and working on things with him, it just they gave me the time to do that. So you want to build that confidence up, not just have it shattered straight away.
And speaking of different riders, like, do you find that you have to change your technique depending on who you're on with?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Certain people like different things. Some people like the chair feeling a bit heavier, so you might have to weight the chair more. Some people like it a bit light. Sometimes you can discuss it with people as to what they'd prefer, what they don't prefer.
Yeah.
Some riders, say for instance Lara, I feel like she carries a lot of mid-corner speed where a lot of other people don't carry as much mid-corner speed. So you definitely have to passenger slightly differently just to be able to, for her to be able to maintain that speed. Certain people, if they're really hard on the brakes coming into the corners, like John was really good on brakes and really late braking. So you'd have to sort of stay up in the chair a little bit longer to be able to let him brake hard, so it doesn't push the front, say, coming into a left or something.
I find that because when I'm with Rob, he brakes pretty hard. Like he'll come up to a corner really fast and he'll brake really hard, and you've got to be careful that you're not stepping out at the same time because you end up falling out.
Yeah. And you don't want to push make the front light and then push it wide and stuff like that. So definitely each rider, your passenger slightly different for each rider, and I guess you find a happy medium between what works for you and what works for them. And sometimes you can ride with people and it just doesn't feel right, or you just don't gel together. Other people, it's something that you can definitely work on and make it come good. So I've ridden with a lot of different people now, and I feel like most people are pretty good, like to work with, and they give you a bit of time to gel with each other. And I guess communication is a huge thing, that if you can communicate with each other what you like, what you don't like, what you feel comfortable with, what you don't, then you're leaps and bounds ahead of stuff.
Yeah, you can work together and build that trust up then, I guess.
Yeah, and sometimes it is hard. Like I rode with a guy in Europe, he's a Swiss guy, Christophe, and he only spoke French. Yeah. And I only spoke English, and I didn't know that until I got to Switzerland, because I'd only spoke to him on Facebook Messenger, and he said, "Can you come over and ride with me?" And I said, "Yeah, no worries." And I got there, and I thought his English was quite good until I got to the airport and realised that, he doesn't speak English. I didn't realise Facebook Messenger auto-translates, so that was a bit hard. Like, all we sort of said together was gas or no gas, and it was still good. I still enjoyed riding with him. It did end in tears the first time we rode together, but that's okay. It was you live and learn from that, and the following year it ended up going not too bad. So
like with that fella, so how did you communicate really?
We didn't really.
No, you just sort of followed what each other was doing, sort of follow the body,
pretty
the
much.
lead.
Yeah, and that's sort of where we come unstuck. Like when we had a crash, it was on a practice track, and I didn't know where the track had gone. I'd never got there. It was, I think, the second lap, and we were going flat out on the second lap sort of thing, and I just didn't quite realise that I got one jump mixed up. I was one jump too early, and I thought it turned left after it, so I started to get out, and then it sort of twisted the bike in the air, and then I went, "Oh no, it's the wrong jump," because you couldn't see the down ramp or after the jump. And then it just sort of twisted and crashed. But it was, basically all we said was gas or no gas. And and he said, "No crash, no problem." So and that was it.
The crash you had that you've got those pictures on your Instagram with the big bruised bloody ribs and stuff?
Yeah, that's fine. So
that looks pretty hectic.
Yeah, it was a long way to go for not getting to race. But
bloody hell.
It was... you live and learn. And
so Europe. So how many times have you been over there?
So the first time I went overseas was in 2010 with Trev, and we went and did the Ken Hall International race in England.
Yeah.
So we borrowed a bike and we just went and did the one race. We were there for like a 3-week holiday, and that was unreal. That was just like a huge eye-opener to what we could do. We only got to ride, it was a little Yamaha 450, lent to us by Steve Hyde, and it was just unreal fun. And to see the top guys and how fast they were going and all that sort of stuff was just kind of mind-blowing, really.
Pretty different to here.
Yeah, and even just the tracks, like how steep the hills were, how fast the track was, how big some of the jumps were. Not that they were crazy big on that track, but they were, just big step downs and some step ups. And, the track was just, I don't think you'd even get them licensed here in Australia, to be honest. I think they'd say no to those tracks here. Yeah. They'd say they're not safe enough, but that's each to their own.
Yeah.
I went there with Trev, and then after we came back, I sort of thought, man, I've got to go back there. Like, I loved it. It was so much fun. And then we didn't end up going.
So how old were you then when you went the first time?
I would have been
pretty young.
23, I think.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, and anyway, thoroughly enjoyed it. And then in 2011, I met Lara, and then we started racing together. And then I moved over to South Australia in Christmas 2012, and then I started riding with John. And during the 2013 season, I knew John had been overseas multiple times, and I sort of said to him, well, would you ever consider going back again? And he said, I wasn't really planning on it, but maybe, yeah. And so then 2014 and 15, I went with John over to Europe, and we did a 6-week, stay in Europe in 2014, and then an 8-week one in 2015. So that was just, awesome experiences, and that sort of really made me think, like, I want to be here. I want to race Grand Prix. I want to, qualify for a Grand Prix. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was just so different to everything we have back here in Australia.
Yeah.
And then after that, had a few years where we didn't really do a great deal. I still had that itch. I still really wanted to race. And a few times I just mentioned to people that, like, I'm pretty keen to have a go. And I think it was 2018. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, 2018. Brett Wilkinson needed a passenger for a Ukrainian Grand Prix. And I sent him a message saying, hey, I can be there. It was I only had a week to get there.
Yep.
I said, hey, if you need me, I can be there. And he ended up getting Ryan Humphrey on, which he'd raced with him many times before. So it made sense for him to get him on. And, it's a lot easier to get their GP licenses and all that sort of stuff. And it was a bit messy with trying to get visas from Australia to Ukraine. So I didn't get that ride. And then every time I'd sort of see someone needed a passenger, I'd be like, oh, geez, I'd love to do that. And I ended up, messaging a few people, sort of putting it out there that I was pretty keen to do Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And then Christoph sent me a message. It was actually, he sent me a message sort of saying, hey, are you interested in doing, I think it was 2 Grand Prix. Was it 2 Grand Prix? And a Swiss championship round. And I said, yep, I'll be there. And so it was basically, I had 2 weeks, I think, to get ready, and I was going there for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So, and I literally started my job with the company that I work for now. I started with them that day, and that night I got a phone call. So I had to go in the next day and say, sorry, but I'm leaving in 2 weeks for 4 weeks. And
well, that must have been all right. You're still there.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd have my job, but he sort of went, oh, okay, well, good on you, like, go for it.
Yeah.
Like, enjoy and live your dream and go for it, and I'll see you when you get back. And then, we got over there, had a couple of practices. The first practice was pretty hard. I was sort of struggling a bit. second little practice was really good. I felt heaps better the second day. I think probably a little bit of jet lag and that sort of stuff too.
And the weather's probably a lot different there too, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I was going from
cold
our
hot?
winter. No, I was going from our winter to their summer, so it was quite warm and humid over there.
Yeah.
And second practice, I felt heaps better, and I was sort of like thinking to myself, yeah, I can do this. This is okay. Like it's all good. Like it's a lot faster than I was sort of thinking it was going to be, but I thought it was okay. And then we went for the third practice on a different track, and had a crash, and I didn't end up getting to ride. I didn't really know what was happening, but I could feel my stomach swelling as I was like when we were just riding back to the pits.
Oh.
And then I didn't think too much of it. I thought, I'll be right. It's just a bit sore. And then I could barely do my buckle up on my pants. And I thought, maybe it's not that good. And my shoulder was really sore, and I couldn't really lift it up. And so went to the doctor. He sort of said, I'm not sure, maybe a cortisone shot or something in your shoulder to make it work. And then that was on a Tuesday. And then on the Thursday, we tried doing another practice, just doing start practice. And I still just couldn't move my arm up. I couldn't lift it.
Yeah.
And so it took me back for MRIs. And then when we're on the way to the Swiss Grand Prix, the doctor rang and said, no, you've got broken ribs, broken shoulder blade, and there was the blood in around the shoulder is why I couldn't, like it was all swollen and that, and that's why I couldn't move my arm.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really know what was wrong with my stomach or anything, but that was, pretty swollen.
Yeah, bloody hell.
So then I had to come home, and then on the following year, I sort of thought, that's all then, that's my dream over. Like I didn't think anyone would give me that opportunity because I had that crash. And then the following year, Daniel Copley from Switzerland, he is a guy, he came over to Australia quite a lot of times, rode a few bikes here and rode a few of the ASA events here.
Okay, yeah.
And, he rang me and he said, there's a guy that needs a passenger. You're interested? And I said, I looked at Lara and she sort of said, go for it. Like, we'll make it work somehow.
Yeah.
And so I said, yep, all good. And I spoke with Joachim Ryman, and he basically said, can you get over here? I want to do the last 9 rounds of the World Championship and the rest of the German Championship. And I just said, yep, I'll be there. I'll make it work somehow.
Yeah.
And, luckily Lara's extremely understanding. And so we sold the house. I was over there.
Because did you guys have kids then?
Yep, so we had Tanner, he was 5, and Sienna was 18 months old.
Yeah.
So Tanner's been to pretty much all the trips except for the 2010. So 2014, he was over there. Yeah. He had his first birthday in Europe and then his second birthday as well.
Yeah.
And then, 2019 he was over there as well with us.
Yeah, and see that, and just having the kids makes it a lot more stressful and stuff as well too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And not really knowing how we're going to pay for this whole trip or how it was going to work. And
being on the other side of the bloody world with 2 little kids.
Yeah, and we didn't have much money, so I just sort of figured, well, I had nowhere to stay or had nothing planned. I literally got a phone call and I said, I'll be there. Yeah. And I knew that they were going to pick me up from the airport so I could sort of meet them and that, but I didn't have any accommodation sorted, nothing. So I packed my push bike because you can take that on your carry-on in the same, if it's under the weight.
Oh, yep.
And so I took my push bike, I took my gear bag, and I thought, I'll be able to ride my push bike wherever I've got to go. And I'll sleep under a bridge or something if I have to, just to make it happen. And luckily when I got there, it turned out his parents had a big house. And so they said, no, if you've got nowhere to stay, you can stay with us. So I got to stay with them for a bit, and we travelled around for a while until, unfortunately, Joachim got hurt, and so he couldn't ride anymore. And then I got on with Christoph, the Swiss guy, again, because his passenger got hurt. So, but it was 6 weeks from when I left to then when Lara got there, and it was literally, Lara booked the tickets, so she sold the house, booked the tickets to fly over with the kids, and it was about half an hour later, Joachim rang me and said, I can't ride, my knees, no good, so he had to go straight in for surgery.
Oh, no.
And I thought, Lara's just booked tickets now, I'm out of a ride.
Yeah.
And about an hour later, Christoph sent me a message saying, "Hey, is there any chance you could jump on with me? I heard Joachim's injured."
Yeah.
And I said, "Yep, I'll be there." So yeah, went on with that, and then luckily his passenger Max was coming back from injury, and I got to ride with Gary Moulds. So unfortunately, Steve Kerwin had hurt his back, and he was a guy that I quite looked up to because I met him in 2010, and it was his rider's dad that lent us the motorbike for me and Trev to ride. Yeah. And so, yeah, I got to ride with Gary Moulds for the rest of the season, and that was just unreal experience. And it made it easier because his English he's Irish, so he can speak. We can speak the same language.
Yeah, so. Yeah. So how many did you end up doing?
So I only missed one of the GPs that season from when I got there. So I did 8 of the Grand Prix. Yeah. I think I did 2 German championships, and 3 British championships. Oh, sorry, no, two British championships because one of them got cancelled.
Yeah. And how long were you there?
The Nations. About 6 months.
Oh wow! So you got a fair bit in that time.
Yeah.
You would have been buggered.
Yeah, it was unreal, but it was definitely hard. It was hard work, and it was an awful lot of travelling. I find it sort of blows my mind when I'm here and people go, "Oh, it's a long way to go," or "Oh, you don't have much time between races." And I think some of these guys overseas, they're, racing in England one weekend, the following weekend they're in Latvia, and then they're, all over the place, and they still manage to get all their bike prep done, or they'll rock up to the track on the Friday and the bike's in a million pieces, and they'll do it all at the track and then get it ready for scrutineering that afternoon. And but I guess it's just different as.
Well, it's probably, is it cheaper to ride there?
No, I think they just want it more.
Yeah,
I think that just comes down to
because there's more of it. I guess more it's like the more people do it, the more people want to do it. Maybe?
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's just.
And are they younger? They're a younger demographic of people doing it too.
Yeah, a lot of the riders are, but not all of them. There's quite a lot that are quite a bit older. Yeah. But then a lot of the other people that help out with it are a lot older too. So it's. I think it's just a different attitude. Yeah. I'd say. Yeah. I'd say that
different mindset and approach to how.
To everything, yeah. I'd say it's if you want to do it, do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But they don't make any excuses there. They just do it. They make it happen. If they want to do it, they'll make it happen regardless. Yeah. And
but I guess I think Australia is very laid back. The laid back sort of she'll be right. Oh yeah, one day that. I think that's just the Aussies. That's just Aussies.
It is, yeah. I think there's a lot of talk about it here. There's a lot of, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. But maybe not so much. Yeah. Maybe not as much desire as there could be.
Yeah. What do you reckon was one of the hardest tracks that you went on?
Well, I really liked Roggenburg in Switzerland. Yeah. That was really fun. And that's pretty much all natural terrain. There's not really... I know a lot of people here think, it's all man-made jumps and it's all stuff over in Europe and that's definitely not the case. There's quite a lot of tracks we went to that pretty much don't have any jumps. There are a couple that do have a lot, but there's a lot that have nothing. And Roggenburg was just so fast, so even the weather, I think it was about 36 degrees and something like 80% humidity. Oh, yeah. And it was so hard to race in that for, our races were anywhere between like the 30 plus 2, but by the time you actually cross the line, it's anywhere between sort of 35 and 40 minutes or 37 minutes or something. So that was certainly hard and
brutal.
Yeah, that one at Roggenburg at the end of it, I don't really remember much of it. I was a bit of a mess, just, I don't know whether it was dehydration, just exhaustion, what it was, but I couldn't really get anything together. I couldn't talk. I couldn't couldn't do anything. I was just
completely violated.
Exhausted. yeah, just so exhausted. But then some of the other tracks are super hard. Like even a lot of the French tracks, the rocks and that. And I know they say that we've got rocks here, but we really don't have rocks here on tracks. The roost of some of the tracks, or Plomion in France, how sharp the rocks are, and just how hard the track surface is was incredible.
Yeah.
But
didn't you get hit in the face by a rock?
Yeah, that was at Kremlin in 2015 with John.
Yeah.
So that was a rock come off the back of another bike and just got me straight in the goggles.
Yeah.
And I saw it coming, and I couldn't really duck or anything. I just smacked me straight in the face, and the lens actually split all the goggle lens and then sliced me open. So that wasn't ideal. And then poor John had a hard time in that race because I was yelling at him like, "No, we're good, go, go, go." And then the goggles started filling up with blood as we were going down the start straight, and it sort of goes to the right, left, and then there's a bit of a drop-off down into a hairpin left, and as we went off the drop-off, the blood just sort of splashed in the goggles and I couldn't see anything. So then I was screaming at him, "Stop, stop, stop." And he's looking at me going, "Am I going? Am I stopping? What am I doing?" And then I got the goggles off, and then I said, "Go." And then so he's kept going, but then the blood was running down and like going into my eyes where I couldn't see. And, but hats off to him. He just kept going. He looked after me, and but that's all part of it. Like, the guys over there, some of them will break bones and then they're back out riding the next week, or they're just you can't have any excuses over there because they are so tough. It just you can either complain about it or you can just get on with it.
Yeah. Well, God, even when you and Lara had that stack at the Murray Williams Cup, she was all busted up and she jumped back on and kept riding, didn't she? Yeah. She's tougher than half the guys, I think. But no, she's. Yeah, I've seen
you
guys have a couple of bloody tip overs.
Yeah, we've had a few good ones, but I suppose that just happens. That's just the nature of any sport, really. But in the big scheme of things, like there's not that many accidents that happen, or very bad accidents. You do get a few here and there, but in the big scheme of things, I feel it's quite safe.
Well, in the last 2 years that I've been riding, the only, I've probably seen 2 that looked a bit like, how you going? But apart from that, that's it. There's only been a couple of slow motion sort of tip overs in a rut on the corner or something like that. Nothing real bad.
No, that's it. So I think as a whole, it's a pretty fun and safe sport.
Yeah.
I guess, if there's dangers in anything, you can drive to work and have an accident. So it's what it is. But
well, and if you're wearing all the gear and you're prepared, sort of thing, I suppose you can only be as safe as you can be.
Exactly, and the other side of it too is that if you're on a racetrack racing, people go riding on the streets or whatever, but it can take a while for an ambulance to get to you if you have an accident there. Where, at a racetrack, there's always an ambulance there, regardless.
Yeah, you're in the safest spot that you could be to have a crash.
Yeah, everyone's going the same direction.
Yeah.
Well, I think
that's like the sidecar that I brought, and I hadn't ridden it at all, and I was like, right, I'm taking it to the Murray Williams Cup and I'm going to ride it, and people are like, you haven't even had a go on it yet, and I'm like, yeah, but there's nowhere safer to be able to have a go than at the racetrack.
Exactly.
If we did have a big stack, we're on a safe track. We've got the officials there. We've got the ambulance there, and you've got all the people there that can give you tips and stuff like that. But if we just went out some random paddock somewhere and had a go and had a crash, we'd be buggered.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And especially in Australia, we don't have any fences right on the edge of the tracks. We don't we don't have the picket fences like some of the say French tracks or
I noticed
British
that,
tracks.
and I'm like, whoa, that would never pass here.
Yeah, pretty much none of the tracks I don't think over there would be allowed to be ridden on here.
No, because seeing the wooden stakes all around, I'm thinking, oh God, that's a bit sketchy.
Yeah, for sure. But a part of it's a bit disappointing too because it takes away. Some of the tracks would really like to put some extra things in probably and make it a bit more enjoyable, or use the natural terrain a bit better. But there's definitely a lot of rules here that you got to follow, and I guess in one way it's good that it's makes it safer, I guess. But other ways it's sort of a bit disappointing. But there's you just got to do whatever you can, really.
Yeah, for sure. So what's the biggest differences you found racing in Australia and Europe?
The speed, for sure, the tracks, and I feel that the biggest difference with the speed is not actually the bikes that we ride, because we ride the same bikes.
Yeah.
The engines, the same engines. We can pretty much have the exact same.
Yeah.
It's technique. Definitely the technique of the riders and passengers. And I guess until you ride with those people or around those people to sort of see what is actually possible on the bike. So I guess you're limited by your ceiling. Like if one height's the fastest you've ever seen or fastest you've ever been, and you think that is the fastest it can be, you go overseas and then it's doubled that, and then you go, oh, okay, so it can go way faster. It's just but the riding technique, I think there's so much that we can learn from Europe and bring to here. I know John and I used to practice heaps of those sorts of things all the time. Yeah. Even with Lara, we practice some of that sort of stuff, and it definitely makes a difference for sure. Do you think
the track layouts and stuff would make a difference in that as well, because they've got the bigger, flowier sort of tracks?
No, because some of their tracks are sort of reasonably tight, or they have little tight chicanes in certain spots. I honestly believe that if you put any of those riders on the tracks here, they will go way faster than what we go, just for the sheer fact of the way they ride and their technique.
Yeah.
What they know is possible is a long way advanced sort of thing. And that's not saying that we're necessarily doing things different. I just think that, or that we're doing things badly, that we could definitely improve.
Yeah.
If you want to be the best, learn from the best. And I have no doubt in my mind that they are the best.
Yeah.
And will continue to be improving. So the best thing to do is to watch them and try and learn from them.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys are really helpful. Like, for instance, I had Kaspar Stoupelis helping me heaps when I was overseas. And we'd go for warm-ups. He'd come and watch me in the morning. If we're in different qualifying groups, he'd come up and he'd watch and he'd say, no, don't do that. That's no good. Do this. Try this. This is better. And if you're willing to just listen to him and learn, then you can get so much improvement in a very short time.
Yeah. Do they seem like they're pretty down to earth and stuff?
Yeah, very.
Willing to help you and sort of not whatever, you're who are you sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely. Kaspar's a 4-time world champion, and he'd come and sit with us in the motorhome sometimes and just have a bit of a chat about what I could do better, what I could do differently. Go and prep goggles with him in the truck that he was working with backs, and he'd sit there and help you with whatever you wanted. He was if you asked him, he would tell you, but he's not going to go out of his way to try and push his ideas on you. He was great. Even Ben de Bogart, he came, I sent him a message saying, hey, is there any chance I can come training with you in the morning just to get some other ideas of what he does for warm-ups and all that sort of stuff. And he said, yeah, cool, come along. They couldn't have been more accommodating, really, all of them over there.
Yeah, that's awesome. See, I've found that even here. I've had people come over and show me on the like sidecar, like at race events, oh, if you try and do this a little bit more, or step here or hold here, like it might be better for you. And yeah, it's been awesome. I reckon, like, I don't know, the whole sidecar community has been awesome for anyone that's like learning.
Yeah, yeah, and they are quite helpful with lots of things. It's I think the biggest thing is just don't be shy to ask.
Yeah.
If you really if you want to learn, and if you want to ask a question, like ask. Sometimes you might not like the answer, but
yeah,
that's if you listen, then maybe you will learn a lot from it.
Yeah.
You know, I know, like, some of the times Caspar's was absolutely brutal with me, but I like that brutal honesty, and
Yeah.
you know exactly where you stand. And everything he said, like, he'd sort of say to me, "Oh, this thing, you're doing this shit, no good." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then he'd say, "You should try this instead." And then he gives you that constructive criticism.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you learn from it. And then I was like, "Oh, well, he's completely right. You just have to, you know, listen and be open to that bit of a criticism."
Well, if it's coming from someone with experience like that too, it might be something that you didn't even think of.
Yeah, definitely. There was heaps of things that I, you know, learnt in no time from that.
Yeah.
And it definitely improved lots of things for me, and it made it more enjoyable too, because certain ways that he'd tell me to do things, and it makes it a little bit easier on you, and it works better for the bike, so you get faster, and you can then enjoy the race more.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, for sure. So what would you say would be like your most memorable moments as a passenger, like in Europe and in Australia?
In Australia would be there's a couple.
Yeah.
There's a few. Probably, I guess from when I was a little kid, all I ever wanted to do was win an Australian motocross championship.
Yep.
So the first one of those I did with Trev was probably a very memorable moment. That was, you know, something that I'd always wanted to do.
Yep.
Then with John, there was we had a lot of success with John. And I'd say some of the times I probably almost enjoyed some of the training with John more than I even enjoyed the racing.
Yep.
Because we could just go out and
just have fun.
You know, do 35, 40-minute sessions of just pushing ourselves to the absolute max. And we'd come in and we'd learn, and we'd be able to talk to each other. I found him super easy to talk to.
Yeah.
And say, "Oh, can we try this? Can we try that?" And we'd just jump around and do different things. And we'd always give stuff a go. Like, even if we thought, you know, "Oh, that might not work," but we'd give it a shot and go, "Yeah, that was good," or "No, that was crap." And so some of that was really good with John. And then also probably, I think winning the Murray Williams Cup with Lara was a pretty special thing. That was, we had everything sort of going against us that day. The starter gear on our bike broke early on in the day. So we went to start it, couldn't get it started. And then we ended up riding the KX 500. We ended up hole shotting on that, and then going through the whoops, and we got a flat tyre.
Oh, no.
And then, I think we missed the next, or we might have gone out in the next race, and we got my bike going, but we had trouble roll starting it, so we ended up getting it going, and then we won one of the A-grade races, so that was really good to do. And then I think we missed the next race. We'd had trouble getting the bike going again and whatnot. And then we went out for the Murray Williams Cup races. And, that was just super hard fought races. Like, John had Lara's brother on the side, and he's a really good passenger. Like, I've had him on the side myself, and he is a really good passenger. So we knew we had to push super hard and just, you know, to build up even before the Murray Williams Cup practicing. And John was out there as well, practicing with Dane, and we were sort of going, like, we have to do these jumps. We have to be able to get these jumps, because we knew John would be able to get them. So building up and just improving each time we rode together, and then to win that event was pretty special.
Yeah, and to
Um,
put like because you put in all that hard work as well, so it's just that reward right at the end.
yeah, yeah. And then for Europe, I'd say the biggest, probably the biggest ones was with Jochum, just qualify. Like my dream was just to qualify for a Grand Prix,
Yeah,
and if I qualified, I wanted to then try and score points. And the first Grand Prix I went to with Jochum, we qualified
yeah,
and scored points, and so that was just unreal. And then after that, as soon as we did that, then I wanted to get top 20, top 15, and then even just to finish on the lead lap over there. They're so fast, so it's quite a challenge just to still finish on the lead lap.
yeah,
And I ended up doing that with Christoph, so we got a top 15, then we finished on the lead lap, and then with Jochum, I also got a second place in the German Championship, and so that was pretty satisfying. Their races are quite hard, and it was at his home race, so that was his best result he'd had there, and yeah, that was just a really good feeling, good excitement, atmosphere, and that. And then with Gary, then I just wanted to keep improving. So my goal was a top 10 in a Grand Prix, and we ended up managing that in Goujon. And yeah, that was unreal. To get a top 10 was, way more than I could ever have asked for.
yeah.
And then they got me to ride the Nations with them. So to ride the Sidecar Cross of Nations,
Yep.
the rider has to be a passport holder of that country,
Okay,
but then the passenger can be from any country. So
because
to get to go over with John and
yeah, because I was going to say, didn't a group from Australia go over?
yeah, so there was like John and myself,
Yeah,
Dave Manuel and Tyson Rolack and Greg Anthony and Hamish Toby, and we all got to ride for Australia in the Sidecar of Nations.
yeah. Is that
And
the
then-
only time Australia's ever done it?
Yeah, for sidecars it is.
Yeah.
The quads did it the following year, I think it was.
Okay, yeah,
But yeah, that was the only time Australia's ever been represented, so that was pretty special to get to do that.
yeah. That's cool.
And then I got to represent Ireland as well, and
Yeah.
it was at the same track in Schwedt in Germany. So that was pretty cool to have got to represent two countries in the Nations.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Do you think that Australia will ever get back over there again?
I'd like to say yes,
Yeah.
but it'd take a lot of
Because, like, what bikes and stuff did you guys use?
So in 2014, John and I got a bike built over there.
Yeah.
And then 2015, we shipped our bikes over there and then shipped them back.
Oh, wow. That would have been a big mission.
Yeah. So we just boxed them all up, put them on an airplane and sent them over and then sent them back. So that was quite expensive. It'd be a lot more expensive now, but it was, I think, the best way of doing it so that you've got a bike that's already set up and
Yeah.
you're comfortable with
Yeah.
within reason.
Well, that wouldn't be the same as trying to import a bike to Australia, would it? Because it's already your bike that you're taking there, using and bringing back.
Yeah,
There wouldn't be as many
it is,
rules and stuff.
Yeah, it's still quite difficult because you got to do carnets, so you don't have to pay for taxes and all that stuff each way. So that makes it a bit tricky, but it was it was good experience, and I think it was the right choice to take our own bikes over.
Yeah.
If you had a lot of time before you started racing, like if you got over there and you had a fair few weeks to set up the bike or something like that, it'd be okay. But yeah, to try and just get there and then go straight to a race that weekend, that's a lot to try and get it all set up and ready to go and that. But I also went over in 2023 with Crash to do the Welsh 2-day enduro.
Yeah.
And that was probably a bit easier in the fact that like he had a bike there and the Welsh boys had heaps of stuff that we could use to help set up the bikes and that. So
you guys ended up, didn't you guys get the best time or something, but then you weren't in that class or something?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a strange one. So Crash didn't enter. Basically, they got a championship class, and then the equivalent of like expert and clubman.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, the championship class, you accumulate points from all the enduros.
Yeah.
And that goes to the championship overall.
Oh, okay.
But expert is basically the same sort of class or same sort of level, but you are not accumulating points. So you're not taking away from the championship of the other riders where they might have finished if you did beat some of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we were riding with those guys or following those guys, and we had the fastest time outright out of everyone. So I don't know. In my opinion, we won it.
Well, you technically won, yeah.
we definitely won our class, and we had the fastest time outright. So in my opinion, we won that too.
Yeah.
But they didn't award us the win outright because they said we're not in the championship class. But from what I'd heard from other people over there, there's other people that won from those other classes as well before. But that year we didn't. So that was a bit of a bittersweet. But at the end of the day, you know, the stopwatch didn't lie. The stopwatch said the stopwatch was good enough for me and Crash, I think,
to take that
see
one.
who actually won. Yeah.
Did you guys expect to do that well?
I certainly wasn't going there to come last.
Yeah.
I didn't want to. I don't know. I guess anything that I try and do, I want to do at the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And like Crash has got a lot of experience in road trials. It was definitely a different. It's definitely different to the road trials. I much preferred the enduro sort of format than the road trials.
I was going to say, what is it like? What's the format of that race like?
So it's more your typical enduro where you what would be road sections here are like your trail sections.
Okay, yeah.
And so you've got to. They're probably often they're quite harder than the actual time sections. So the time sections, quite a lot of them were. There was a couple through the forest and through the bush, but quite a lot of them were almost like a big open grass track sort of track.
Oh yeah.
And so everything goes off the time sections, but through the trails you still have to keep on your time with your traditional time cards and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I actually really enjoyed quite a lot of the trails. I think in a perfect world I'd go over to Victoria and train for that because it just looked like home to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were in Wales, like when I've done a couple of road trials, I get lost as I think, that just looks like another bare hill. I don't know where I am. But over there I felt like I knew, we've been here. That's going up over that hill. And it was quite easy to sort of know where we were going because it all looked familiar to me because it was very much like the Victorian countryside and the forests and that I used to ride in on solo bikes when I was a kid. So, I did enjoy that for sure. That was good.
So you've done the 24 as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
Did you guys win that one?
Yeah. Yep. So
is it similar type of it's like the 2 days different to that?
I'd say it's a fair bit different. So when we did the 24, that was like a last minute sort of call up. Unfortunately, Adam Brook got crook. I think he got COVID or something, so he couldn't ride. And so Shane rang me, I think it was a Monday or Tuesday, and said, can you ride this weekend? And I thought, yeah, I suppose, yeah. And we went out and we'd never ridden together ever before on a bike. The bike that he was riding is actually the bike that I rode in Europe with Gary Moulds.
Oh, okay.
And that was a nice little trip back in time.
Yeah.
And I think we gelled reasonably well together and kept on it. And I think Crash was a little bit ahead of us, but I think he'd had a few penalties or something, and then we just kept pushing, and in the end we ended up getting the win. So that was all right.
Yeah. And is that the only one that you've done?
That's the only 24 I've done. Yeah.
Would you do it again?
Probably not.
No,
it doesn't really appeal to me that much. The road trials don't really do it for me. I don't really get that sense of satisfaction or even challenge sort of yeah, I don't really get that out of them. I don't find them
Yeah.
super difficult or anything like that. And
Well,
even
I
the
suppose
buzz,
it's like, you know, you either like motocross or you're sort of like enduro. Like everyone has their preferences, I guess.
yeah, to me, I like racing,
Yeah.
racing against other
With other
bikes.
bikes and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I've done a fair bit of the speedway years ago, and
Yeah.
I've only just started that back up again. But
Yeah.
it's that racing against other bikes and
like bars banging and like thinking,
yeah,
oh.
yeah.
Do you ever get
Like,
scared? Like, do you ever think, holy crap, like this is getting a bit a bit crazy?
not really. No, the speedway doesn't really scare me too much. I feel like that's pretty. You know, when they hit you, you've still got a lot of fiberglass panels, so it sort of flexes a bit. So it's not that bad. I don't feel like. Where the motocross, when a bike really slams you, I don't feel like anybody really hits anyone here in Australia. That's all pretty gentle, but definitely in Europe, especially at some of the French races,
you've probably got a lot more people trying to get around that first corner and stuff like that too. Because what's the max that you've had in a race like here in Australia, like on the gate?
Probably maybe about 20-ish or something.
Yeah, and then what do you get over there? Like 2 rows.
Yeah, so you get 30 in a Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you get 2 rows of 15.
And everyone that's in those races want to win. Whereas here, you've just got the weekend warriors that are out there just, you know, having fun. So they're not going to be trying to smash you off the track to get in front.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely some things. Like in Europe, I don't know that it was definitely scary, some of the stuff. Some of the jumps were scary.
Yeah.
And just the sheer speed that you're doing. Like there was a jump in Switzerland, and I think it was like 4 ambulances or something in the free training in the morning where people had hit this jump, and it was like the only man-made jump on the track.
Yeah.
And so they got a tunnel to go through for spectators to get to the inside.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a big step up. And I remember coming up to it, and Gary sort of looked at me and he said, "Oh, we're going to have to hit it." And I said, "Yeah, okay." And he goes, "What we'll do is follow Marco Heinzner up to it because he's a local. He's done it heaps of times. He's a left-hand sidecar as well, so we can sort of pace ourselves off him.
Yeah.
And then we'll back out. And then the next lap, we know what pace to go, and then we'll hit it." And I was like, "Okay, cool, let's do that." And then we come up to him, we're pacing ourselves off Marco, we back out, and then he hits it, he cases a jump and has a huge crash. And I was like, "Oh, that's not good." Yeah. And then he looked at me, he goes, "Oh, well, we have to do it this lap." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." He goes, "I'll just do it a little bit faster." I was like, "Okay." And then, hit the jump, and we landed it every time. But every single time coming up to that jump, I was thinking, "Oh, here we go. And then we clear it, and I think, "Oh, that was the best fun ever."
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It was pretty scary each lap, and we had a wild moment in Latvia. There was a jump. I don't know how long it was exactly, maybe 100-foot tabletop or something. And it was on the first lap, and we were in maybe 5th or 6th place or something like that. And we got so twisted off the jump, and it did this big swap as we landed. And we'd almost crashed off the jump before that as well. Yeah. And I thought, wow, we're like
getting loose.
We were the 3rd corner into the race. We've nearly crashed twice. And I thought, we've still got 35 minutes to go here. Like, how the hell are we going to get through this track? And that track was a man-made one. It had heaps of jumps, that one. That was one of the exceptions where they were very man-made tracks. But it had something like 27 jumps a lap or something. So it was a lot.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was definitely some scary moments.
Yeah. Going back to the, like being the left chair and the right chair, have you been on both?
No, not really. I had to go on a right-hander.
Was it weird?
I didn't mind it. It definitely felt weird going around right-hand corners. It was a bit strange. Yeah. The left-hand corners felt really good. But the guy that I rode with, I'm not even sure who it was actually. It was just a guy from Czech. It was after one of the Czech Republic races that we did, and he said, "Oh, yeah, I'll take you for a couple of laps." So I jumped on with him, and we had a couple of laps. I'd quite like to maybe even get a right-hander one day and just have a bit of a play on it and learn to ride it.
Are we allowed to have right-handers here? In motocross we probably can, yeah?
Yep,
but not
sure.
in road trials because it would... I'm pretty sure I read in the road rules that we had to have left chairs to be road registered.
I don't know. I'm sure you'd be able to get an exemption because you're allowed to have left-hand drive cars. So
Yeah, maybe.
Surely there'd be an exemption somehow.
Yeah.
Um,
Has anyone ever had a right-hand chair here?
Yeah, there's been a fair few.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly who they all were, but there has been a couple of right-hand chairs here. A guy, Bernie, he's got one here at the moment. He hasn't come out racing, but he did import one a few years ago to Australia.
Okay.
I don't know whether he's planning on racing it or not. But yeah, there has been a few right-hand chairs.
And does that, like, in the race, when you've got the right and the left, like, is there, like, do you have to change, like, your strategy? Say if you're on a left chair and you're trying to pass around someone with a right chair, like, do you, like, whack into each other and stuff?
You get a bit, but it's not so much because you often take different lines, so it probably opens up more opportunities for passing.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, they might take a slightly different line to come into the corner or out of the corner.
Okay, yeah. Because
so
it does make a difference on how the bike handles and how you would approach corners and stuff, having a difference. Yeah. And it definitely helps with having opportunities for each, like, to pass each other, I think. Yeah.
But I didn't find it, you know, scary or odd that there was a right-hander and a left. It was pretty. Well, it was good. It was really good.
You probably don't really notice it so much as a passenger, but you just doing your
not
thing.
really. Yeah. Maybe if you're hanging out to the left
and they are
left-hander and they're going right and they can just slam the chair into you, but
it
doesn't happen that much, and you know, that's racing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you come together and sometimes you don't. So
what's your worst crash that you've ever had?
Probably the most painful one was probably with Christoph.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't know what was happening. I was in a foreign country. They couldn't speak English. I couldn't speak French. It was all a bit like, I don't know what's happening here. And then I remember going back to the house and, like, I had all, like, grazes on me and they were putting something on my hip trying to help it. And I wasn't sure what it was. I was like, it kind of smells like honey. And I think it was honey that they were putting on me. And I read somewhere later that it's actually really good, like, natural honey is a really good antiseptic.
Oh, okay.
So I think it was actually honey, but I had no idea what was going on. I was just like, it is what it is. But that's probably the worst one on the sidecar, I think.
Yeah.
I haven't had that many bad crashes on sidecar.
No.
I had one, like, my first ever crash on the sidecar was actually with, like, Crash Schiller.
Yeah.
And so I was racing with Trev, and then we come together at Warrnambool, and it ended up a big cartwheel at the end of a straight. And, it was my first ever crash. We got it on camera, and then the restart was my first ever race win. So that was a memorable one.
Yeah.
But poor old Crash, I can't remember exactly what happened, but I think he broke his kneecap in, like, 4 or 5 places, and I think it was a tib and fib, and
bloody
Jed Rolak was pretty hurt too, I think. So, but I'd say my worst crash was probably on solos.
Yeah.
Which, that was, it's just like knocking yourself out and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I had a shoulder injury on a solo.
Solos would probably go a fair bit faster than sidecars, wouldn't they?
Yeah, most of the crashes I had on solo weren't going that fast though. Like, one of them I just hit a rut going off a jump, and I ended up, like, I crashed, but then the bike come down and landed on me. And sort of knocked me out, and it wasn't that bad in the big scheme of things, just a concussion. And then one other one was doing jumps where I come down and, like, landed with the seat under my armpit, and that sort of bent my shoulder up, and so instead of it just dislocating my shoulder, it did a compression fracture in my shoulder.
Oh, wow.
And that was pretty painful. I couldn't really use that for a while, but it's as a whole on the sidecar, I haven't had that many crashes or that many real bad crashes, really.
Yeah.
Most of them I've walked away from.
I can't say I haven't had any crashes, but I've definitely fallen off a few times.
Yeah.
I've been run over twice by my own sidecar because I fell off the front.
Yep.
And then bloody fell off the back and did a big Superman over one of the jumps and was hanging, but I couldn't hang any longer because the G-force is like holding the grab rail while your bloody legs are hanging off the back. And then just done a big roll, and then your rider rides off and they don't even know you're gone. You got to run after them. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, they'll soon learn when they get to a left-hander if they're going at speed.
Yeah, well, when I was with Caroline at one of the road trials, I fell off. Someone had stopped or crashed or something in the creek, and our intercoms had stopped working, and I thought she was going to go left, but she actually went out of the creek. But I didn't know. She was trying to talk to me, but I couldn't hear her, and I went to step out left as she went up the creek bed, and I just rolled out the back. And then she just kept on riding off, and all the spectators are like, Caroline, stop, stop, stop. And she's just riding along. And then I'm like running, and I reckon I had to run like 200 meters. She was like, she went to turn, and the sidecar came up. She looked around, she's like, oh, shit, where is she? And I'm like running up the track. Oh, and it's like you're already buggered, and then you got to run with all the water on your back and all the gear on. You're like, oh, man.
Yeah, sometimes that's harder than the actual racing, isn't
it? It was. I got back, I hopped on the chair, I'm like, like, couldn't breathe. I was like, oh my God. She's like, oh, sorry.
That's good.
But no, like, I think when you're just falling off like that, it's not so bad. But yeah, I've taken a few bits of skin off, but nothing real bad. But,
I think one of the scarier crashes I probably had, there's two that were probably a bit hairy. It was one was in Switzerland with Gary, and it was off the start, and we just come into the corner, and another bike had sort of come across, and we flipped chair wheels, and it flipped us over.
Oh,
and there's actually like photos of it, and I'm still holding Gary as we're like I'm getting out for a right-hander, and the bike's tipping over, and I'm still. You know, we're like upside down, but still both on the bike, trying to as if we're going to ride it out, and we were never going to ride it out, but. That was probably more scary because you're not sure who's coming behind you to clean you up when there's so many bikes in those races. Yeah. And then
that's what scares me about motocross is having the other bikes in case like something dumb happens where I just slip off, and then like I might only fall off, but all the bikes behind you are going to bloody crash into you.
Yeah, and I had one
scary.
at Rudersberg in Germany. It was the same sort of thing. I think we're in about third place in the quali race, and as you come around, it had a little chicane, and then it had a double jump.
Yeah.
And the guy in the lead didn't hit the double jump, and so the guys in second place, they've quickly put their hand up to let us know that they're not jumping it, and so we were already sort of committed to it, but we've hit the brakes to try and slow down, but we were just travelling too much speed, so we've cased this double, and then it's just flicked us straight over the bars and landed on the ground. And then you've got all the other bikes coming straight after it. And one actually ran over my leg, and it snapped the knee brace clean through.
Oh, wow.
And luckily
Lucky you had knee braces on.
Yeah, exactly. And he my boot's hooked on it, and it's dragged me off the track. And so as much as it was, not ideal getting run over, he actually dragged me out of the way of other bikes coming, so it sort of was in a bad situation. It was the best case scenario, and we ended up being able to get back on and still qualify for that race. Like we had to come from dead last and came charging through, thinking that we'd have to end up go to last chance qualifying, and we charged from dead last, and we got back up to a qualifying position. So that was unreal.
Yeah, full on. So you do lots of cycling as well, yeah?
Yeah, so for training...
So that's what you do for your training, the cycling?
Pretty much, yeah. I don't know, it's probably a bit of an unpopular opinion, but my thoughts are that cardio fitness is the most important out of everything, because even if you've got big, strong muscles or whatever, if once you're gassed, you're gassed. If you're puffed, there's no point having the strength of the muscles because you haven't got the oxygen going to your muscles. You haven't got anything. So I believe that cardio's the most important.
Oh, yeah, and there's nothing worse than being gassed. There's no coming back from that.
No.
And then once you're gassed, everything just goes bleh. You can't think.
Yeah, your mental side is then you start bringing doubt into your mind.
Yeah.
Where if you're, you can be tired but not puffed.
Yeah.
You can still bring the oxygen and you still think clearly.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, that's the most important.
I'd have to probably agree with that for sure.
Yeah, so I'd say cardio and core is the most important. I know cardio is maybe not always the most fun, but I don't mind it. I'm a bit scared of riding pushies on the road sometimes, but so I always go like really early in the mornings. Or Lara actually brought me a indoor trainer, like a smart trainer for it. So I've been doing a lot of that this year, and it's probably not as fun as going out like outside and actually riding, but it's definitely safer, and it doesn't matter if it's pouring rain or if it's stinking hot weather or if it's you've got no excuses then.
Yeah. I try to do rowing. I try to row a lot because I feel like rowing's really good for like the cardio and getting that strength in your arms and your legs and stuff as well.
Yeah, and even your core is quite good for your core. So I agree that anything like that, even if it's running, the skier or rowing, I just have a bike, so that's why I use the bike, and I don't like running. So
well, see, I can't run much anymore because I got shin splints, but I've ran thousands and thousands of Ks in my life as a fighter when I was fighting.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm at the point now that I just think, I am not running anymore. I've done my time.
I just have a real goofy style of running. I don't know. I guess if I put effort into it, I could probably learn to run better, but I don't enjoy it, and I much prefer the bike. So I just sort of try and focus on that, and really like the best training you could have is riding the sidecar, but
that's not always possible.
No, and especially this time of year when it's so dry and dusty, like even if you have a track you could go and ride, it's, sometimes it's too hot or too dusty to ride. So,
do you do any other stuff? Like, do you do like any strength stuff or anything, or just like the bike?
Not really. Like I might do some push-ups or sit-ups or some chin-ups or something like that, but that's about it. I don't go to the gym or anything like that. I find it's really hard to...
But you've got a physical job, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So I'm a carpenter by trade, but I work for a ceiling fixing company. But I do lots of the doors and that sort of stuff for them, and they're often quite heavy. Yeah,
you'd be carrying stuff around and like doing stuff at work most days. Yeah. Yeah,
it is a physical job. I definitely don't think that just the job's enough to stay fit enough to race or anything. Not at a decent level anyway. I sort of feel like you only get out what you put in with anything really. So, lots of people can make excuses of, can't do this or can't do that, but it's just what you want to do. And
if you want it, you'll make it happen.
Exactly. And if you put the effort in, it'll come. It just, you only get out what you put in with anything in life really.
Yeah, for sure. So,
what
advice would you give to new people that want to have a go?
I would say give it a shot. It's going to be hard to start with. It's going to feel hard, or it might feel like impossible to do some of the stuff. If you see someone, no one's going to criticize you, and no one that's better than you will ever criticize you.
Yeah.
So go and speak to the person that you look up to. If you see someone and you want to be in their position, then go and have a chat to them, and 90% of them, like they'll have a chat to you and they'll help you, and a lot of them have come from the same situation. Like, I was a bit sort of nervous to go and talk to Caspar. It was the first time I spoke to him, and I'd met him in 2010, but I saw him in 2014. I sort of wanted to chat to him, but I was like, I don't want to. He's at the races. He's running for the world title, and we're in the park for May, just about to go out for practice, and he come and tapped me on the shoulder, introduced himself, and I said, I know who you are, like that's, and just by chatting to him, I couldn't have got any more help. Like he was just brilliant. So I think just ask those people,
Yeah.
that you maybe look up to, or maybe that are in a position that you want to be. You know, if it is in road trials, go and ask the top guys. If it is in motocross, go and ask the top guys. And generally, they're pretty open to helping. And I think most of the people, like the top guys, girls, when I say guys, I don't mean just males. I mean just people riding.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it needs to be a guy to be the best. I had Eliza on passengering a couple of times with me, and she is a brilliant passenger. Like the way her, she might not be as physically strong, but then she puts more effort into the technique, and so she's in the right spot every time.
Yeah.
And so, go and ask those people that you look up to. Go and ask those people that, if you consider them better than you or you want to learn from them, just ask them.
Yeah.
Most of them will help you.
Yeah,
and they want to see you do better too, because if they're at the top, then they want more competition.
Yeah.
So just don't be shy. Ask.
Well, I've found everyone to be awesome, like real supportive, and like someone that's really helped me was Sean Buckley. He really broke down lots of stuff, and I've asked him so many questions, and I think the way that he explained it and the way that he was saying to me, like, if you do this, this is why you do this, and if you don't do this, this might happen, and it was, I really could take it in, and he really took the time to explain it to me, and I didn't feel stupid or silly for asking any of those questions, and a lot of the stuff that he said has really, really helped me. And I'm so glad that I actually spoke to him and asked him these questions. Yeah. And it was good. It was really good. But if I hadn't have started chatting to you guys at the track, I wouldn't have not even gone on a sidecar.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to say, hey, I want to have a go at this. As a sidecar racer, I want nothing more than more people to do it, and it's definitely, probably not the greatest times for sidecars at the moment. It's very quiet on numbers, and I don't have all the answers of why or how to do it better, but I'm pretty sure that everybody out there that races wants to see more people out there doing it as well. So just ask, try and get into the sport somehow. Start out as a passenger, even if you want to be a rider. Start out as a passenger so that you can get a feel for what it's like on that side of the bike, and then
well, I definitely have, after being a passenger for the last couple of years and then trying to ride, I can definitely know now why a passenger needs to do certain things.
Yeah.
Because when you get on the bike, because sometimes you don't really realize, and then when you start riding, you're like, okay, now I understand why I've got to be out here. And I think by riding is actually going to make me a better passenger too.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I understand it more.
Yep, and you can get a feel for, okay, if the passenger does this, that's how the bike then reacts to you.
Yeah.
So, no, it's definitely a good one. And, there's so many, I always hear guys say, no, my missus wouldn't let me do this. Go and ride with her. Yeah. It's a perfect sport. Like, a husband and wife can race together. Yeah. They can do whatever. The girls can race against the guys. And there's so many, not just in Australia. Obviously, Lara's done really well against the guys, but there's lots of other people that have done exceptional too. And if you look in even the World Championship, Sabrina Van Callister, Kelly De Bruyne, there's a fair few French girls as well, and they're literally racing in the highest level in the world against the guys. Yeah. So it's a pretty cool sport where,
anyone
the girls can be treated equal to the guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's and quite often, I don't think there's too much, especially in the GPs. I don't think anyone ever got disappointed that they got beaten by a girl. It was how good's that?
Well, I've never felt she's a girl, she shouldn't be out here. I've never felt like that at all.
No. I've said it to a few people. Sometimes girls are the best passengers as well, and riders, because they'll listen and learn quite easily. They'll take on board what you say. Yeah. There's a lot less ego, I'd say, with girls than guys. And so, if you're a guy and you're looking for a passenger and there's a girl that's half keen, give it a shot because, you know, she might be the best passenger you've ever had.
Yeah, yeah.
Or if you're a passenger and looking for a female rider, she might be the best rider you've had. So
yeah,
it's definitely
it's a very
definitely give it a
inclusive
go.
sport. I think it's very inclusive.
Yeah.
And
Yep,
and
definitely.
even like age wise, like there's like you look at Roger and Barbara in the road trials, like they're
Yeah.
in their late 60s, and
Yeah,
like they're
yeah.
still like flying around out there. Barry Buckley,
Yeah,
like
even
like
Michael
you,
Trev, he's
yeah,
in his
well,
70s now.
yeah, well, didn't you do? Was it the Spectacular or the Murray Williams Cup with him a couple of years ago?
Yeah, yep, I did.
Yeah, because I remember
Um,
Rob saying to me, "Oh, that guy that Brian's on with, he's like in his 70s." I was like, "What?" And
yeah,
he was still doing huge jumps and everything.
yeah, yep. So when I first started racing with him, I think he was 50 when I
Yeah.
first started with him.
Oh wow, yeah,
So yeah, he just, you know, if you want it, you can keep doing it.
yeah,
You know, even John, like John's fitness was unbelievable.
yeah,
Like, there's no young person I've ever ridden with that I'd say was as fit as John.
yeah,
He's a machine.
yeah.
I think, like I follow him on Strava and that, and
Because
the
he
amount
does,
of kilometres he does.
yeah, he
is
does cycling too,
crazy.
doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah. And you know, it's mental what he's done. I think at this year, like we're 2 months into the year, and he's already done well over 2,500 k's
Oh,
on the push bike. So it's just, you know, like I said before, you only get out what you put in.
yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah, no,
no,
that's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it's definitely a good sport. I'm sure that John would probably still be racing as much as he was if it wasn't for his wrist injury and that sort of stuff.
yeah,
I'm sure he'd still keep racing, and I have no doubt that once his wrists healed up from the operation, I'm sure we'll be going out having a few practices here and there, and
yeah.
I really hope we do because I've always had a great time. Like even just going training and with him and that it's unreal. Like it's
Oh,
really good
awesome.
fun.
All right. Well, we've been chatting for like an hour and a half.
Yeah,
We could keep going for ages. It's just so much.
I do like talking about motorbikes.
Yeah. Oh, well, we might need to make a part 2.
Yep, no dramas.
But yeah, so I might let you go. And yeah, thanks heaps for chatting with me.
Yep,
And
no problem. Thank you very much.
yeah, thanks for being my first guest.
You're welcome. No problem at
I
all.
was a bit
So,
nervous. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. But I was like, oh, I'll be right with Brian because I already know who he is. So be
yeah,
a bit more
no, I
relaxed.
think it's great what you're doing for the sport, and there's definitely a few people that'd be great to get on that. You know, for instance, like John,
Yeah.
Rocky Warren would be a really good
Yeah,
one to
I've
have a
got
chat
him
to.
lined up. I've got him lined
yeah,
up.
Crash, he loves to chat
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, you know, it'd be great to have lots of different things and just get more exposure for the sport. So I think it's really good what you're doing, and
Yeah, thanks.
you know, as a fellow racer, I appreciate your efforts with it, and even with all your social media stuff and that
Yeah.
for the bike club in Australia, like they say.
Yeah.
Hats off to you. You're doing a great job.
Well, I just feel like sidecars are just so like underrated, and like I love it so much. I'm absolutely hooked, and I just buzz after every event that I do, and I wish I could race every single weekend. And
Yep.
and I'm so devo that I started when I was 40 and not when I was young. So I'm a bit angry that I missed out.
Yeah. Well, you've still got 30 plus years to go.
Yeah. Then I look at the others and I think, oh, well, they're still getting around. But I'm like, I reckon, like, if I did it when I was a bit younger, I would have been a bit more crazier, and I probably would have wanted to go a bit more harder. But
Yeah,
now I'm a
yeah.
bit like, I don't want to hurt anything, or, you know, I've got kids, so I don't want to have to be putting up with, like, looking after the kids with a broken leg or something.
That's it.
But
Well,
yeah, but
bone-
I just want,
Bones always heal, and doctors are getting better. So
yeah.
you know,
But yeah, I
It
just
won't be
love
long.
for more people to be able to get involved. And when, like, a lot of the time, like, I say to people, oh yeah, race sidecars, and they're like, what's that? Like, they don't even know
Yeah.
what they are. I'm thinking, I'm always got my phone out showing people, oh, this is what they are, this is what we do, like, showing them, like, highlight reels and that, and they're just like, whoa, like I didn't even know that was a thing. So I thought if I can get it out there, they think speedway, or I don't know what they think actually, because when you say you race on a motocross sidecar, they're like, oh yeah, and then you show them and they're like, whoa, like what the hell is that thing? And then they're like, do they do jumps and stuff? And I'm like, oh yeah, like check this out. And people are just like, you're mad, like that's insane. And
yeah, exactly.
But I just think like they don't even know what it was. If more people knew what it, like if we can get it out there and like just spam bloody social media world with sidecars, more people go, oh, what's that? Oh, we want to give that a go.
Yeah, so exactly.
It's just trying to get it out there and give it that exposure, and hopefully we can. But it's hard too, because you don't want to be like, you know, I know some people are funny and they don't want to like, you know, put themselves out there, and like they're not trying to big note themselves by like making like an athlete page or something like that. Like I think a lot of people are stuck in that, like the older generation of, you know, you don't talk about it because people will think you've got a big head or whatever. But in this day and age now, you have to do that sort of stuff to get it out there.
You do, and there's definitely that whole tall poppy syndrome sort of thing, and you know, I think when you put yourself out there, you're an easy target to be shot at. Sort of thing. So
for sure.
It's you definitely cop a lot of flack, but I guess, you know, it's the amount of times I've been told, oh, it's easy, but if it was easy, well,
more people would be doing it.
Yeah, if it was so easy.
That's where, because I was like, oh, if I do all these things, people are going to go, oh, she thinks she's so good, you know, she's only a beginner, like she hasn't been racing very long. But then I think it's such a small niche sort of sport that anyone that's going to try and like say anything to you, I'd be like, whatever, mate, you try and do it then.
Exactly, yeah. And I think, people, the amount of times I've got told, like, oh, you're lucky you got to go overseas, or you're lucky this. And I think, well, there's no luck involved, really.
Not at all.
I had to put myself out there. Yeah. The amount of times I've got laughed at or shot down or told I'm an idiot or whatnot, and, you know, or I've had these crazy dreams, let's say, that, you know, I wanted to go to Europe, I wanted to do this. And don't get me wrong, there's certain people that definitely laugh, or they'll say whatever they want to say to you.
Yeah.
But those people don't matter.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you do what you want to do. And, you know, there's people that will support you, the people that will encourage you. There'll often be people that you would never have thought would be that way.
Yeah.
That will. But, you know, if you really want to go do it, then just go do it. Yeah. It's a great sport to be involved in. And, you know, I've got to go all over the world. And, people might say it was lucky. Well, I don't know. Was it? It was lucky that I had such an understanding wife.
Yeah.
And, you know, her family was so helpful with helping, move all the furniture when I left overseas, and, you know, letting us move back in there when we came back for a little bit and whatnot until we got on our feet again. But I was definitely lucky in that situation. But the rest of it was, you make your own luck. You have to put yourself out there. You know, sending, say, the likes of Brett Wilkinson a message saying, hey, I'll come passenger for you. Yeah. That's pretty daunting. The guy's pretty fast, and I thought I could do it, but I wasn't certain. So, but you just got to put yourself out there, and if you do it, then I'm sure you can. If you do it and you want it enough, you'll make it happen. Yeah.
Well, that's even with this podcast. I was like, oh, should I do it? And then I'm like, oh, I'm not really that experienced, like, and then I thought, you know what, stuff it. I'm going to do it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does, it could be massive, and it could be awesome for the sport. And I've actually had, like, a few people, like, overseas people message me and say, like, oh, what you're doing is so awesome, like good on ya, and like suggesting like some of the world champions over there, like, oh, you should definitely approach them. They'd be really happy to like come on and talk to you. And I was like, oh, wow. Oh, okay.
Yeah, definitely. some of their experiences and that is awesome what they've done. And
yeah, well, I listened to the sidecars on the sofas with Dan Foden and that, and like I'm always waiting. I'm like, oh, I can't wait for him to bring out another episode, and I listen to him while I'm at the gym and stuff. And then I thought, oh, well, why can't we do that? We could have that in Australia too. Like we could do something like that. And I thought, stuff it, I'm doing it.
Yeah, well, good on you for doing it because it's out there now. It's happening. So
yeah, I just hope that people don't get offended by anything, or sometimes different opinions and stuff like that. Like I don't want to cause any trouble or have anyone get offended or anything like that. I hope everyone just sort of listens in and takes what they want and don't worry about stuff that they don't agree with or whatever. Because and
I think lots of people. I've had a few people say to me that this is not Europe, Australia's not Europe, and I look at that and say, well, yeah, I know it's not Europe, and it never will be Europe here. Like it's just not. It's just different. It's not the same. Like I said with the tracks, you couldn't license the tracks here. Yeah. You wouldn't get it passed, and that's fine. But it doesn't mean that Australia can't be better or that we can't learn from some of the Europe stuff. And the way I see it with like the ASA is that it's the very lowest of low club level sort of stuff in Australia for beginners. Yeah. So we need to accommodate them, hence like Race Your Mates class and all the junior classes. Yeah. But then it's also the highest level that you can go to in Australia, so you need to accommodate for the A grade type stuff. And sometimes I get accused of like, I don't like road trials and that, and I've done them and I've tried them, and it's not really my thing. It's I don't mind the sections, I just don't like the road, but I understand that's all part of it. But it doesn't mean I hate all, like, if someone's out there riding a sidecar, then awesome. Yeah. The more sidecars, the better. The more sidecars out here, the better.
Yeah, and you sort of can work together, even if people do jump in and do road trials, it might sort of encourage more of those guys to maybe have a go at motocross, or the motocross guys to have a go at road trials. And you can sort of mix
they're the same bike. Anyway. Like they're the exact same bike, really. Like, and if road trials want to have a go on motocross, like they don't even have to take their headlights off or their bark busters. That's all.
The bike that I got off Caroline is set up for road trials, but I'm planning to just ride it in motocross until I get the feel of riding. So I'm just going to take the front light thing off and take the number plate off and ride it in motocross.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then if I once I get confident, down the track, if I wanted to have a go at a road trial, I would just chuck my thing back on and off I go.
Yeah, the best thing is just, regardless of what people want to ride, get out there and ride them, and just don't leave them in sheds. Yeah. Just get them out and have rides. Yeah, well, and try and build the sport back up to what it was.
Yeah, I think even just having those bikes out there for new people to be able to buy and get into it, because if there's no bikes around, I looked for a bike for over a year and there was nothing. I was just lucky that I was a Caroline's passenger and she offered me the bike. Yeah. Otherwise I'd be still looking for a bike.
Yeah, and there's thousands around. It's just people put them in their sheds and don't want to sell them, but they also don't want to ride them. So
it makes it hard. We need to work out a really good way to get them all here, import lots of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Flood the whole place with bikes.
Yeah, we've just got to get people to ride them now.
Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to get everyone hooked. Everyone that comes over to my house, I'm like, do you want to have a go on the sidecar?
Yeah, perfect.
Even my mum's friends. I even had my mum on there and her friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we might get a bunch of old ladies come and rock up.
Perfect. Even better. The more bikes out there, the better.
Yeah. Nah, awesome. All right, well, I better let you go because, we keep saying, we're going, and then we keep going.
No worries.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
So much. Appreciate it. Thanks heaps.
Anytime.
Yeah, no worries. See ya.
See ya. Bye.
I just want to thank everyone for jumping on and listening. I hope you enjoyed my first guest, Brian Anthony, and I look forward to chatting with Brian again in the future. There's just so much that we could have kept chatting about. I just want to thank Brian for jumping on and being my first guest. and I would love to get some feedback from you guys, how we can make it better, or any questions or anything like that. So thanks, guys.